If you've ever needed to erect a structure in the bush, you would have had to rely a whole lot on your knot-making skills, especially if that structure was going to have to carry your weight. Something like a raised platform for a hide or a ladder really carries a lot of your weight, and you need to be sure that those knots are going to hold and serve the purpose you made them for. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how to make a square hitch, which is one of my favorite knots for fixing structures at perpendicular angles. I'm Clarice, welcome to the Live Ready channel. So I've got a bit of 550 paracord, and in a previous video I showed how to make a end of the line bowline knot. So I basically leave end of the line bowline knots on all of my pieces of paracord except for this one. The advantage of an end of the line bowline is that it is a really secure knot that you can easily make into a running bowline so that you can tie and untie your ridge lines really quickly. Just a quick recap on how I do an end of the line bowline. I fold my standing end over my working end, pull the standing end through, thread the working end around the knot part of the standing end, pinch it on both sides, and I just pull down and I've got an end of the line bowline. Now I can easily fix this around anything that gives me a fixed point that comes undone really quickly. You can start a square hitch any way you want. I just like an end of the line bowline because I know I can trust this to hold. So what I do is I make a little running bowline out of it, just like that. Fix it around the one end of my perpendicular structure, okay? If you need to, like, this could have been a really big log. I've put it on a branch on the other side, but if you need to make this simpler for yourself, then just tie it on with a temporary hitch on the other side. I hope it doesn't come off. Okay. So I've got a running bowline on there. Now I know that side is going to hold. Now I can start going around my tree, and this is what we call wraps. And the idea behind a square hitch is that it ends up looking square. Okay, so I'm going to go over my log on this side. I'd always choose such big trees. I'm going to be so dirty after this. And if I started going over on that side, well, this is going great. You haven't been in the bush if you didn't get dirty. All right, so if I started over, I'm going to go around my object, over and back around underneath. So I'm going to have two sets of lines at the back of this tree, one set above and one set below what I'm fixing. Okay, going back around and underneath. So now I've gone over the top, around the tree, over the top, around the tree, underneath. Now I'm going to go back over again. And the ideal is to keep your lines really neat. As I'm doing this, I'm putting tension on my line, and every time I do a new wrap, I go just on the outside of my previous wrap. Now back over again, as I started. Clarice, why do you do this to yourself? And that's the reality, is you're not necessarily always going to find the size tree that you're looking for. I mean, for YouTube videos, we try and make these things ideal, but it's not ideal in the bush. Right, and I'm going to do one more wrap here. Once again, going underneath. Now, I use this hitch to build rafts, to build raised platforms, to build anything that needs a structure, lean-to shelter, anything like that. Or you could even use it to tie something onto your vehicle or fix something at home. So it's really a practical knot to know as well. So now that I've done 3 wraps on either side, and I've got 3 lines on either side, which are like a skew, I'm going to tension it really nicely, and then I'm going to start doing what we call fraps. So instead of going around the tree, I'm now going to go between the tree and the perpendicular structure that I'm fixing to it. Now ideally you would try and keep your lines nice and parallel to one another, just because it serves to tension the knot really nicely, and you want to be able to tension the knot as you go. So I'm going to go underneath here, around my lines, and between the two structures that I'm fixing together, and I'm going to pull really hard on that in order to tension this knot really, really tight. Now I know that when I've done a couple of fraps here, this is really going to sit tightly here. And if I want to give myself a little bit of an added advantage here, I can just use a stick, wrap my line around the stick, and I can pull on the stick in order to get a lot of tension onto this line. I'm going to go around again, and I'm going to do 3 fraps just like I did 3 wraps. And pull really tight on that. And a third time. And now I've done 3 wraps and 3 fraps, so I know this structure is going to hold really well. You can do more than that, you can do 5. In some instances my line has been too short and I've only done 1 or 2. The structure still holds, you just need to tension really well, and then there needs to be other places that you fix that structure really well to. So if there was a branch sitting here that I knew was going to support this, I could do maybe just 2 wraps and be sure that this wasn't going to go anywhere, but that my knot is going to hold the structure together and it's not going to move in the wind or in the weather. All right, now all I have to do is to actually fix my line on the knot. And for that, I really just like a clove hitch, really simple. Okay, to make a clove hitch, I'm going to do just a little cross. I'm going to keep the tension on my line by pressing down on it. And then when I come around again with my end, I'm going to thread my end in underneath the little cross, wherever that end is. And then you can just, once it's underneath the cross, pull taut on it. And that will hold perfectly well. And that is a square hitch. Now that I've been hanging on it, it's really seated securely on here because I've taken all of the looseness out of it and it's been tensioned to the point where this is not going to move. I can go and do a couple more wraps or fraps if I feel like I wanted it to sit more tightly, but for the purpose of this video, that's perfectly fine. If you're building something like a raft, this would have been fine. Out of interest, if you are going to build a lean-to shelter from this, then make your lean-to shelter lean against the pole that you have fixed to the tree. So don't let the lean-to shelter be on the other side and then it's pushing against your knot, because then your entire shelter is hinged on your knot. Whereas if your lean-to shelter is at this angle, it's now going to also add more pressure to the tree and it's going to support your knot. So it's just a safer way, especially in bad weather, to build a shelter or to construct something, is to just make sure that all the forces are working in the same direction so that you are sure that that structure is going to hold. So to be clear, if I wanted my lean-to shelter to be from the other side, so I was going to put my poles down over like this, then I would have had to fix my crossbar or my ridgeline bar to the other side of this tree so that all the forces press against and it doesn't work against my knot. So I'm not putting unnecessary pressure or tension on my lines. Well, that's it from me on square hitches. If you've liked this video, remember to hit like and subscribe. Follow me on social media. I post a bit more of the everyday live ready stuff on Instagram. And until the next time, live ready.